Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss, the podcast for busy professionals, entrepreneurs, and business owners who want to travel smarter, save money, and plan unforgettable trips without the stress. I'm Ross, your host and the founder of Itinerary Boss. I spent a decade building a career in healthcare, software, and medical device sales while planning both personal and business trips across more than 20 countries. Whether it was group getaways with friends, couples trips, or just mapping out business territories, I became the go-to person for saving money on flights, organizing those logistics, and using points to elevate the experience. Now, as an entrepreneur and business owner, I help others do the same by showing you how to travel better using points, smart planning, and those proven strategies. Each week, we bring you expert guests, step-by-step tutorials on points and miles, and real-world itineraries that we've used to help you plan with confidence. Whether it's using points to travel better, exploring a new destination, or just learning how to maximize your spending, we've got you covered. Before we dive in, go ahead and grab one of our free tools in the show notes. One, the points and miles cheat sheet that'll help you get started earning and redeeming points to save thousands on travel, or the stress-free travel toolkit that includes a budget guide, packing checklist, and planning tips to save you time and hassle. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or busy professional looking to choose your next credit card or get help maximizing your everyday spending for rewards and booking free travel, book a free one-on-one consultation. You can find the link within the show notes or head over to itineraryboss.com. And if this episode helps you, please share it with a friend or family member, follow the show, and leave a 5-star review. It's the best way that helps us grow. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss. Today, I'm excited to have on Jordi Llonch from Setlantis. He is going to take us through what he's got going on with an amazing app that I'm excited for our listeners and audience to see and learn more about. Hey, Jordi, how are you doing today?
Hey Ross, thank you for inviting. Yes, it will be a pleasure sharing what I've been building on for the last couple of months.
Yeah, very, very excited to have you here. Before we dive in, you have a pretty interesting background and just want our audience to understand a little bit more about you before you just dive in to share that. I know you started out as an airline pilot, which then has evolved to you just being a serial entrepreneur, and now you're the head of growth, at Setlantis. So just would love to understand a little bit more about that journey and what convinced you to then go build out tech companies and then Setlantis.
Yes, I when I was young, I always had like this interest in flying, but I mean flying like Peter Pan flow, you know? It's like this dream, like some when you're a kid, you have like these crazy dreams. And then I grew up and I realized that if I wanted to fly, I had to learn how to drive one of those big things that fly, which are airplanes. So this is how I got into flying. It's just like more of a kid's dream. And then as an adult, a young adult, I discovered I could do that. So it was such a fun and maturing experience because you might think that flying is something. Well, I like to compare it with a surgeon. It's it's a very difficult job that requires a lot of attention, and not only while you are performing the action, but it's almost 24/7 that you have to be current and know what new advances, technologies, what mistakes other pilots have incurred in to avoid making their mistakes over and over. So it was 7 years that I worked as an airline pilot, and it helped me grow a lot, especially because I landed this job in another country. I didn't even speak the language where I found the job. So it helped me to mature as a human being, and that was like my first real job as an adult. But yeah, that was life. Life has different edges, and it sends you to different routes. And because we pilots have sometimes like good schedules, sometimes you have to work like maybe the whole day, but then you have a couple of days off. So I had a lot of time to think what I want to do. And in my spare time, I enrolled in the university to get a little bit more creative. We pilots are like always focused, like we have to always be thinking the KPIs, the engines, the passengers, the airport. So I wanted to be more creative. So I enrolled to study something more artistic. And one of the subjects of this university degree was entrepreneurship. And from there, I started discovering that you can build ventures or adventures and then make them become uh, businesses. And yeah, from there, I launched my first startup while I was still being a pilot. And then luckily enough, I got picked by one of the startup incubators in Barcelona. And from there, we grew very much. And we became, now it's in retrospective, it looks so easy to explain, but we became the best app of the world at Mobile World Congress, which to me was like huge at the time. Like out of more than 9,000 apps from all over the world that presented themselves, we were the winners. And based on that, I started to understand how to launch and create and launch and grow startups. And
Hey, I wanted to take a quick break to say thank you so much for tuning into the show. The only way the show grows is through listeners like you helping us share it. So if you're enjoying the show, it'd mean the world to me if you hit that 5-star rating, shared it with a friend or family member who's ready to travel more, save money, or just needs a little bit more inspiration and that nudge. And if you're posting about it on Instagram, go ahead and tag Itinerary Boss, and we'll make sure to reshare it and shout you out for giving us a shout out. Thanks so much for the support. It truly means a lot. And now back with the show.
there is a moment that you cannot do everything at the same time. So I was flying 15 days a month in another country. My home base was Vienna in Austria. My team for my startup was in Barcelona. And at the time, I was also starting another startup and finishing my university degree. So too many things at the time, right? So, as I said before, I like to compare being a pilot with a surgeon. You have to have only one thing in your head, else you're going to start making mistakes. And the same can be applied, not the same with a startup. If you make a mistake, nobody dies. But, in the
Hmm.
aviation industry, there are some priorities. So that's when I decided to finish my career as an airline pilot and devote myself to the startup world. So that was a little bit what brought me to where am I today, that I work with startups, founders, entrepreneurs, and now I'm working for this startup called Setlantis.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that background story, and it helps just to understand, right? How did you get here from, being an airline pilot and then, right, growing a startup? And I didn't know that. That's amazing. The fact that you won the app out of, 9,000 apps
Yeah, it's
worldwide.
incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Especially
I
like
still can't believe it.
getting started out just from that. And it's cool that you were able to realize that, like you said, right? That's a great analogy. A surgeon really needs to focus on that because they have, a life at hand. And same thing for, being a pilot. But it is cool how you were able to see that, and then that obviously has helped you be very successful in your startup career. That's one of my favorite parts is kind of hearing the background story of how do people, right, get here. There's always going to be different walks and unique experiences and just learnings
Mm.
throughout, whatever type of journey and path you take. So no, I really appreciate you sharing that. And then just before we dive in, because I want to learn a little bit more, like, what do you feel like you learned from some of those first ventures that now has helped you as you're building out Setlantis, and everything you all are doing today with the product, the teams, and everything?
So one of the main characteristics you have to have as an airline pilot is to be able to make quick decisions, life or death decisions, fast enough, and they have to be the right decisions. So this is something that not everybody is born with this capability. Some of us have more luck and are born with these traits, but it wasn't my case. So I learned how to train. I trained my brain to make decisions based on inputs that are mostly were inputs that came from my eyes, inputs from maybe if the temperature of the engine is increasing or if there is a strong crosswind from the right or from the left, or if there is a big cloud ahead of us, and then I have to switch on the weather radar and see what's inside of this cloud. Is this icing conditions. So are we going to die if we get inside? So based on that, like what I'm trying to say is that in my case, that was the aviation industry job. But everybody probably has had also changes on their career path. Each of those, if your each of your experiences in every job can be, they can be taken or extrapolated to what you're doing now. In my case, the ability to make these types of decisions based on data are helping me now. It helped me to create successful KPIs dashboards, for example, to evaluate how because I said startups, I work in startups. I didn't specify. I work with digital startups. So are mostly are products that you can track using some tracking devices. Like, for example, when you download an app, you know, the creator of the app can know when did you download it, when did you open it, what did you click inside of the app. So I I learned how to build like these kind of dashboards, like cockpit, in the airplane you have the cockpit, so you have all these indicators. So I learned how to build this for something that it was not very popular at the time. Now of course all these sophisticated startups are using all type of dashboards. And this is something that at the beginning nobody was doing, and to me was so natural, like to make quick decisions based on real-time inputs. And this to me has been like a lifesaver. Today, for example, this morning I was having a call with one of our investors, and he asked me, "How are we going?" And a simple question of how are we going? It's like, yeah, no worry. Let me share you a screenshot. I share a screenshot of my dashboard, and then I can explain a story based on the data. And interpretation, it's always subject to the individual. And because I built the dashboard, I can have some kind of bias. So that's why we are trying to gather as much information as possible. Mm, but then once you are it's like economists, right? Like everybody is so smart when whatever stock goes up, but they're very smart tomorrow. So I mean, based on you see now the stock exchange has increased because we think that blah 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 blah. If you
Hmm.
were so smart, you should have invested yesterday, right? So what I'm trying to say is that I can play the smart kid here analyzing the data, but the benefit or the next step, which is the most complicated one, is that if my interpretation of today's data based on, for example, the last month activity is this, then I should be able to leverage it to increase, for example, the usage of the app next month. So if my interpretation is because we launched an event and people booked that event, we increase the users. If that's true, then tomorrow I have to launch another event and put some gasoline there, so make this event more popular and verify that the number of users increased based on my
Yeah.
campaign promoting that event. This is something that in aviation, it is are decisions that you have to make now in a fraction of a second because you're gonna die.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
here we're not dying. So what helps me is that I'm able or I'm capable of making faster decisions that I wouldn't have. Everything you can learn of it, but I wouldn't have learned it as fast as I had to when my passengers' lives were at stake.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are all great analogies, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm excited to for you to show us a little bit more, but just a couple things just that you talked about. I think it's very cool that you make those analogies from making those split second decisions, and you wouldn't have, and when you tell the story about how you won the app, like I think in your mind, you and what I'm thinking too is if you weren't in aviation for those years prior, you probably wouldn't have been able to win that. Maybe you would have, but right, I feel like that helped you just get
I think
better
so.
and better over time and learn. And I think that's really important. A lot of times, people will be like, oh, I'm just going to stay in the same job for 30 years. And they don't, right? And they just learn and they learn the same company. They don't learn. And I think I think of since I was in sales for 10 plus years at four different companies, like taking those different lessons learned from each one and just compounding those over. And you just, you start to learn, hey, here's what I liked, what good leaders did. Here's what I
Mhm.
didn't like that good leaders did. And here's how I'm going to leverage, right, data and analytics, right, to continue to grow. But also in sales, it's you got to have, you got to be talking to people, you got to be building pipeline. And like you said, right, you can then forecast, if you have a pipeline of 4x of, of what your number is, you're probably going to be able to hit your number. You can kind of forecast that versus, hey, I got one deal that's going to close. So yeah, it's understanding that. And then just once you realize, hey, this is working, just really focusing in on that, but being able, like you said, being able to pivot and make quick decisions, right? And
Yes.
not over analyzing things because that's where, right, you're gonna just burn yourself out and
Yeah, they call it paralysis by analysis.
yeah, analysis paralysis. Oh yeah, I yeah. So I think that's a good trait and it makes a lot of sense why you've been able to successfully have a career outside of aviation, grow startups, build out Setlantis. So would love to, right? I feel like I'm a visual learner. When I looked at the website when we talked the first time, saw you did a great demo for me. So would love just to have you share your screen and then just, for people who haven't seen it, just walk us through, what Setlantis is, some of the core features, right? What are some of the problems it's solving and who it serves? I think that's a good starting off point. And then I have a couple questions probably as you get into the demo. That other people are probably thinking about that I'll ask you.
All right. I will share my screen. Tell me, tell me if you can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Is it working? Yeah.
Yes.
So when you access Atlantis, this is what you see. A list of all the cities that we have listed on the database. At the moment, we have around 80. We're adding cities nonstop. So I don't know. I can make you an example. I can do the example with Prague
Okay.
because I'm going to Prague next, and this is a good example. And what you see here is the desktop view. We are pushing updates now every day. Normally it's every 2 weeks, but now because we have to attend to this conference in Prague, we are pushing updates to to have like the best latest experience for the users every day. So yeah, if you want, I can give an overview and maybe you can ask me if there are some things that are not clear or what's the value for your audience that I think that they will be very interested in it.
Yeah, yeah, I think for like, what is, I guess, the problem? What was one of the challenges that you saw? And then what do you feel like you guys are solving the problems for, like for people?
Right. So I'm a digital nomad, meaning I travel a lot. I can consider myself, depending on the period of the year, I'm either a digital nomad or a frequent traveler. Okay? Because sometimes I have my base and I stick for a while. But when I travel, and now I'm going to Prague, and I've never been to Prague, well, I've been at the airport, but I don't think that counts. So now a person that is traveling to Prague for the first time, I need to have an idea on what's going on in the city. First, what's Prague? Also, all this information is freely available on the Wikipedia, on a travel guide, or on ChatGPT, whatever. But it's here. It's a centralization point. Well, Prague, the capital and largest city of the Czech Republic, sits at the heart of Europe along the Vltava River, with a population of 1.4 million, blah, blah, blah. It gives me a little bit of information about the city. Well, first, if I'm if I'm picking where to go, now I have an idea what is Prague. Probably if I want to go to Prague, I already know that. So that's why it is very short information.
Okay.
But I would like to know who is in Prague because I'm a frequent traveler. I normally travel alone or with my team, and I would like to meet like-minded people. So that's why we have a list of other people, as you can see here, that is interested in Prague. It
Okay.
doesn't mean you don't have to share your GPS position or anything. No, this is like a Facebook group. You can either accept to join or not join, but you're not sharing anything. But maybe gives me an idea on who's there, and maybe because there is so many people, it's not useful at the moment. All
Okay.
right. But we have an idea. If I want to meet people there, Now, today, when I go to a new city, I enter Facebook groups and I ask I search for I'm Spanish, so Spaniards in Prague or tips in Prague, and then I can talk to people. So here it's the same idea. And
Okay.
those are frequent travelers, so they are eager to share as well their experience. And some of them are not only travelers, some of them are ambassadors, these ones with the crown, and others have this house, meaning they live there.
Okay.
So for me, it's an idea on who shall I trust better. The ambassadors, we handpick them manually, we know them personally, so we know that they not only live there, but they are also promoting local shops, merchants, gyms, everything. And then the ones that have the house, I know that I might be able to know to ask them things that a local might know.
Yeah. How
Then we
how
have
does one become an ambassador? Like if
Mhm.
someone was like, "Hey, I live in Prague," or "Hey, I live here," like how would they go about becoming an ambassador?
So they have to meet us. When I mean us, it's somebody from the Setlantis team.
Okay.
We go to many conferences. Normally, look, here I have like this wristband from one conference, another one. I was in Albufeira a couple of weeks ago to the Nomad World Fest, a conference for nomads. And
Okay.
there I met a couple of people that were interested in being close to us. So this is how we meet our ambassadors. They are people that travel that are interested in getting to know or knowing other frequent travelers like us. So this
Okay.
is how you get to become an ambassador.
Cool.
But then maybe before talking to the people, you would like to know what this people is talking about. So here we have like a Facebook wall of people posting pictures. So for example, this guy, Vano, 6 minutes ago, there is no better kickoff post than a 1.1 kilogram bone ribeye steak from blah, blah, blah. And then he promotes a restaurant where he had this restaurant. So maybe you can click. Okay, this one doesn't work. I don't know if you can see this. In
Yeah,
my computer, it says post not found. I don't know. Maybe it's not working now. Or this other guy, Victor said, 6 hours ago, Prague. Already here, waiting for BTC Prague. Who else?
that's
Ah,
cool. Okay.
I saw that a couple of hours ago and I already liked it. This is my profile. So this is a way of getting to know people based on what they are posting. So if you like ribeyes, then you should follow this guy. So for example, if I like, let's go, you click on the profile, Vano, 26 following, one follower. Okay, I like ribeyes. I'll follow him. That's it.
Okay.
And he only posted one ribeye.
Okay.
I can go back. Oh, I don't go back to Prague. So imagine this as Facebook, a Facebook group from a city, or there are events, or there are other pictures. So it depends what you're interested in. You can choose who you want to talk to.
Okay.
And you can create posts here as well. You can create post, and then you can write, upload a picture.
That's
So
awesome.
look, I'm not showing anything special. All
Yeah.
these things people can do already in Facebook. The problem is that your reputation that you have on Facebook or on Instagram, you cannot bring it to another app. Which other app? Imagine Google Maps. Here we have a list of merchants, and you can see what are the local picks. So our local ambassador, he has decided to post his favorite restaurant, and this is one of the values of being an ambassador. So, for example, if your family has a restaurant, you can put it
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
right? So this is like a way of making business. And it's not only that, because imagine you don't know anything about ambassadors or anything. So, I don't know, imagine you like pizza nuova, authentic Italian pizza in a lively atmosphere, 4.3 stars out of 8,000 reviews, cafes and restaurants. Okay, let's click it. It opened a new screen. Can you see
Yeah.
the pizza nuova screen? Yeah. What we have here, we didn't invent that. This is Google Maps. We actually pulled all this information from either Google Maps, TripAdvisor, Michelin Guide, but we are in the same app.
That's awesome.
And as I said, this was discovered by our ambassador, and you can see the information here. So when you click it, you can see Grafton at Vexel, zero following. Okay, this guy must be very popular.
Hmm.
He's following no one, but has 458 followers. And
Hmm.
you can see who this guy is, and maybe you can follow him. So I can follow him again. So what's the value of that? The value is that if you discover a place here in Prague on the map and you like it, and you discover and you see who discovered that place, maybe you like other places that this person will discover because you share the same interests. So, with the excuse of finding a restaurant, you made the connection. By making this connection, you are feeding our algorithm that you like what this guy Grafton liked. So, next time when you go to visit the city, we will show you first this type of restaurants instead of others because we are learning from you. And if you don't like to use this view that we have with the local peaks, with the suggested, we also have the map view. And we didn't invent anything here either. So this is like a Google Maps experience. We have the filters, or maybe you don't want to find a restaurant. Maybe you want to find, let's say, a gym. Okay, wellness and
Cool.
fitness. What type of gyms? Spa, sport center, massage. Okay, so now you have less information. What about this one? Classic sports haven with a cozy sauna. I don't know. I don't like this one. Living well health club. Okay, I like this one better. And again, it's the same experience. And there is something that I'm very happy of this for the users because the users would say, all this information is already on Google Maps.
Yeah.
Because we not only have the picture, but we have the description, the telephone, if it's open or not, the map. We didn't invent anything here. We have some recommendations. What we did is we downloaded all the reviews. In this case, this spa has, or this wellness center has 50 reviews. So we downloaded them all. We passed them through a artificial intelligence system, and we are studying. So we are analyzing all the 50 reviews so you don't have to read them all. And if you don't have time for that, we also have created uh, another second layer of artificial intelligence that reads how about cleanliness, facilities, location, service. So if you care about cleanliness, you can read an average of all the comments on Google Maps. Generally clean environment, praised for being pleasant and fragrant. So if this is important to you, this is a way on how you will decide. You don't have to read, and this is one example with only 50 reviews, but we have restaurants with, you've seen it before, 8,000 reviews. You don't have time to read all of it. And this is just the beginning, because if I like this place, and this is the current version, but in a couple of weeks, we will be able to also add our stars here and add uh, and link it to our social graph. The social graph is this algorithm that is learning from what we like, what we don't like. So then I will be able to see only your comments. If I go work out with you and we have the same interests, I will be seeing first the the gyms that you like rather than some random reviews from other random people that who knows, maybe they are even fake, you know, and on Google Maps you can buy all these reviews that are
Yeah. Well, I
bot
think
farms.
yeah, well, I think it's awesome that, you know, you have this is great because when someone move when like if I'm thinking about okay, I'm going to a new city, you guys are tackling all the different things that you just mentioned, right? If someone's a digital nomad and they're planning to go there for a month, 2 months, you know, however long, if they're just going there for a week or less, a couple days for a conference, right?
Yeah,
You're like you said, you aren't having to go to um Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor,
have to
Vital,
jump.
Google Maps. You don't have to go to, you know, you're not having to juggle 15 tabs on your phone or, you know, on your screen, right? You can go in and you can see, okay, this is what I'm interested in. And then you can filter it. And I like the fact that you guys have that map view as well as just the main view. And then you can filter that down to what specific things that you like. You know, if you're looking for a restaurant or a gym or there's specific health things that you care about more, it's more personalized. And then also it's nice
Mhm.
that once you do that, and if you follow people, right, it's going to share similar things that you're going to like. So it's great. And then the fact that it's not only Prague, right, it's a bunch of other cities, which makes it great. So you're just providing kind of an all-in-one experience where you within the app where you don't have to juggle between a bunch of different ones, and you make it simple with that map view. And I mean, from planning a bunch of trips and having to juggle all those different things, right? When you,
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
It's
yeah, exactly. And
normal to
that's,
have 20 tabs open. It's normal for every frequent traveler,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's
No,
exhausting.
for sure. I want to go back to if you want to go to profile, because there was one thing that I wanted to touch on. Yeah, so then so obviously the events thing's pretty straightforward. You guys have events, which is cool. So if you're traveling there, right, you're able to see that. But top scores. So can you tell me a little
Yes.
bit more about that? So like cost of living, quality of life, infrastructure. You talked about digital nomads, but what about like families who might be wanting to move, and then also the Bitcoin side of things, because I know that's something that you are focused in on. So would love to just hear a little bit more about that because that impressed me when we first got connected.
So this is a snapshot. So now you open the Prague webpage and you see all this in just one screen. And when we are nomads, when we are traveling from one place to another, it's difficult for us to pick our next destination. So it's good that maybe you like to discover some music, for example, here in Prague. It talks about Prague, or maybe you would like to discover merchants or the architecture or talk to other people. But there are those things that something that we should care about is will I be able to afford
Hmm.
being moving here with normally nomads, the average and it depends on the statistics or on the studies that you're looking at. But normally, the average age of a nomad is in his late 30s, early 40s. So normally, this is people that is either married or they have kids, and they travel normally with their kids. So normally, one of the family members is either an entrepreneur that has the ability to work remotely from wherever they are, or a remote worker. But the other person in the family maybe is not. So it's like the whole family needs to survive on a single salary. So that's why you need to know, will I be able to afford Prague. So we have created like this list. Here it's just a snapshot, as I was saying before. Cost of living. Well, it's orange, and you can see it's in the 50%. So that might be a little bit expensive. So what we do is we have like this section, you can show all, and then it goes to the schools. And it tells you here the information that this is a quick way to compare cities. And those are general general topics analyzed from the same angle in all the cities we go. This is something, all these scores are filled in by our local ambassadors. In some cities, we have one ambassador, then we trust 100% of what they say. In other cities, we have more than one. So we can generate averages, which is better. In the future, anybody that lives in this city or that has visited that city will be able to add their point of view, and we will organize it or give more weight to the people that we know that they are really there. So,
Hmm.
for example, let's talk about the cost of living that we were saying before. Well, in this case, the cost of living, we can see that the housing, affordability of housing, property purchase or long-term rental, it's very low. It means that it's expensive. As you can see, Prague seems to be expensive city. Education is affordability of childcare and private schooling. We're talking about all that we're talking here is about private because normally the digital nomads they cannot get their kids into the public schools because they need to follow some procedures that maybe once they finish filling this procedure, they already decided to change the country. So that's why most of the digital nomads kids are going to international private schools.
Hmm.
Then we have information that it's important. I live in Barcelona, and a couple of years ago, I was living in, in South Korea. And in South Korea, the way the roads are built are not very organized as in other cities I visited, like Barcelona. So there are many alleys behind the buildings that they are streets. but they are not illuminated. So, and you know, when it's dark, it's dark. You see nothing. It's completely dark. I remember in some alleys having to pull on my flashlight from my camera, from my phone, to just to see where I was walking by. So we give like this information about, but why am I telling you all this? Even though it was dark, I felt safe.
Hmm.
Same thing in Barcelona. I wouldn't even enter into one of those roads. So Prague, for example, you can see here, it's very safe. And you can
Hmm.
click on it and you can expand on the information. So
Okay.
violent crime, assault, armed robbery, and other attacks on people, 9.1, that's grand, that's green. It's no problem at all. Perceived safety, 9.2. Feeling safe walking alone, carrying a smartphone in your hand. This is what happened to me in Seoul, in
Yeah.
South Korea.
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, this is all, it's very just self-sufficient, self-explanatory, right? I think you guys do a great job, and that's where it's, yeah, I mean, just going through it, you really, and that's where it's nice is people are going to have different preferences, right? You may have someone who's in their 20s who's like, hey, I really care about, I truly care about the cost of living and I
Yes.
care if it's safe and and everything else.
And
It's
that's
like,
it. They don't
yeah,
care about
yeah, or
legal.
infrastructure, right? If I have to work, that's it. But like, different in that is cool that you guys cater to different, you have business, so families, quality of life, just kind of everything, legal, healthcare, just all of those broken down. And I think
Mhm.
that's really really important. And that's I see it
Right.
very valuable for people who, whether they're going for, a week or they're going for a month or want to just want to look to move somewhere, right? Like they can take all these things in because I feel like most people probably, they go best place to be a digital nomad. And then they go down a rabbit hole of Reddit, Google, right? ChatGPT, just there's so many different things. So like having all of this in one place, and not only for nomads, right? If you're just trying to find somewhere, you're like, you know what, I kind of want to go and what's safe, right? How much is some of that? Well, how's the infrastructure if I do need to work? Right? Like, what's tourism like? Like, it's not only for nomads, it's just kind of a one-stop shop. Yeah, exactly. So tourism, there's just there's a lot of and I think that's one thing that I people who haven't been international, so from maybe just I'm in the States who haven't, a lot of the times
Mhm.
they're just like, what happens if I get over there and no one speaks English? Or, right,
Yes.
like I'm scared to do this or that. Like they just kind of have, like we talked about, analysis paralysis. This helps give people, right, that just understanding of no, like we've done the work and we are talking to people who are local. And then also, if you've never planned a trip and you don't know, like for me, it's kind of second nature because I've done it and I know like, all right, this is my process. But for people who haven't, like it gives them just an easier way to go connect with like-minded people who are an ambassador who live there, and then they can kind of go figure out like what's important to me, right? And I think that's huge. And you're just consolidating it all into one platform. I mean, I know when we talked to you the first time, you shared a little bit just at a high level, but just like diving a little bit deeper and seeing the back end, like I already see how like walkability, that's huge, ride sharing, internet, traffic, right? I mean, some places you go and you're like, wow, you don't, I just got back from Bali and Thailand and traffic's crazy. But I think that's huge. And I think that gives
You
people a
couldn't.
personalized experience where that's what I'm all about. It isn't what's the latest and greatest and hottest on social media and where do you need to go? It's like, what do you like and what do you care about? And let's start there. And then from there, that's where you should go. So this provides, I mean, you guys have done a great job. It like
Thank you.
every question that I have, like as you're going through this, like it's so self-explanatory, and the
Mhm.
fact that you can just click into and then dive deeper into those things is great. I do have a question. So I know we've like dove into Prague, but if you go
Yes.
back, so say you have a digital nomad or you have a family, and they're like, "Hey, Jordi, like I'm just like I may want to move somewhere. Like, is
Yeah.
there a way to see like at a like filter it to top places? So I'm seeing like a 7 score, then I see like a 7.7. Cool. Okay, so you have trending, highest score, lowest score, highest price. Okay, so you can really figure out what's the most important to people. LA 5.2, not a shocker. Highest price. Let's see what we
But
got.
it's trending.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Maybe we can go to the highest score.
yeah, Dubai.
Dubai,
Okay. Porto. I would agree with that. I went to Porto a couple years back. Nice. All right. Bangkok was there. Boulder.
Bangkok, of course, Andorra.
Boulder's
So,
Boulder's great in the States. Cost of living's very high.
and
Uh,
this is what we have now. Now we only have the ordering of all
mhm.
these cities, all these
Yeah.
80, 100 places that we have. What I
Okay.
want to build is a selector.
Hmm.
So I would like to build a selector. So remember these scores. So instead of having to go city by city to check the scores, I would like to build a selector that allows me, let's go here to profile,
Hmm.
that allows me to move these scores. So cost of living, I want one that is cheap. So move it here to the top. Quality of life, high. Infrastructure, high. But you know that if you move all selectors too high, it's impossible, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't have the perfect place. So I want the one that when it moves to the right, then the others readapt. And then it helps you find
The
the
city.
play that has the most desired characteristics for the most important characteristics for you in a city. So in the builds, not yet.
This is awesome. No, this is cool. I'm excited just to continue to follow along how you guys build this out. I think it's very self-explanatory. I'm excited to share it on this podcast.
And I'm glad that you asked this question because it validates my
Yeah,
my hypothesis. Like I want a selector. I want to pick because some nomads they have like these mm, planning hysteria. Like, where do I go next?
yeah,
I don't know. And they just go to these blogs, as you were saying, the list of the most popular cities for travelers. But you know that those blogs are paid by the companies that
yeah.
need to sell you the plane tickets, the
Yeah.
hotels, the accommodation. This is how internet works today. So
Oh
what we're
yeah.
trying to do here is to build this information crowdsourced by the users themselves. So then if we do that, I don't need to pull hidden sponsors to promote some cities in front of the others. I don't want to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think I mean, that's great. And I like how you guys are building. And I mean, yeah, I run my travel company and, I post about places that I've been and I'll tell you, hey, here's my favorites. This is, who I would recommend this for. This is who I won't. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, on the back end, right, I get paid for, people booking tours and things like that, but I
Yes.
recommend things that I've done and I'll tell you, hey, here's lessons learned, here's things that I did like, here's things I didn't like, and this may not be for you if you can't handle this or you don't like this. So it's like, and that's why it goes back to like, what's that personalized experience you're looking for? And you guys, from what you've shown me, you guys do a phenomenal job of thinking about the end consumer and customer in mind. So no, this is great. I'm excited, and you guys are just such at an early stage, so I'm excited to see kind of
Yes.
how it continues to evolve. And no, I really do like that where you can, you can move that over to show, hey, you know what? Family is the most important thing to me, right? That and maybe quality of life, like cost of living. Say someone, hey, I'm in my 40s or 50s. I cost of living isn't as important. I just want something that has a good quality of life and is family friendly. That's very important. I think the last thing I want to add, because I know this is kind of a big piece of your guys' mission and just what when we talked, I found it very interesting. But then just what about the Bitcoin piece? Because I know,
Yes.
yeah, looking at the back end, it showed like, hey, this is accepted, but it's not only like, is it accepted? Kind of talk me through why you guys included that, and then like just everything about it.
So for example, we start from the perspective of a person that never heard of Bitcoin, or if they heard of Bitcoin, maybe they think it's a speculation asset or I don't know, something to get rich quick or those things that are not true.
Mhm.
But this is how traditional mass media is selling it to the broader market because they have to keep their own narrative.
Mhm.
So let's start with Prague. For example, in Prague, here I select a filter of Bitcoin accepted. So I'm just a random user browsing Setlantis, and I enter to this restaurant, La Corte, info, blah, 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 and it says, oh, Bitcoin accepted. Okay, so why do I care? Why do I care about Bitcoin being accepted or not? We are a platform that has been built on top of an open source protocol that Bitcoiners like a lot. We are freedom seekers. Most digital nomads they are looking for freedom in a sense of geographical freedom. I want to be free to move from one country to another. And there are different reasons for that. One of the reasons is because I like to travel, all right? And I like to discover new places. 100 years ago, before aviation was invented, it was very difficult to travel from one place to another. Now globalization allows us to be this free. So most of digital nomads, once they start traveling, they realize that they are geographically free, but not financially free. And by financially free, I don't mean that they have enough money in the bank or enough revenue streams to sustain their way of living. No, 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 I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when they travel from one country to another and maybe they close a deal contract with a client and they ask them to send their first invoice, maybe that invoice gets blocked by the bank because the client is in another country than your bank, and the bank of your bank thinks that this has been like an irregular operation, or maybe they start asking origin of funds. And even though you, a digital nomad, think you are free, then you cannot pay your bills, and then out of a sudden you think you have money, but it's on the bank. And what we Bitcoiners say is that your money in the bank is not money, is not yours, and it's not in the bank. Meaning that these are numbers, ones and zeros, that are on a database, a centralized database from whichever bank, and I'm going to make the short explanation here. This money is not yours. You have a claim. It's an IOU. I owe you. You have a claim for that money. So, and that's why banks ask us a lot of information. What's your name? Where do you live? Can I see a picture of your passport, of your ID? So then when you want to claim it back, you can demonstrate that you are the same person that this is owed to. The problem is that sometimes, even you've given all this information, they don't trust you because they might think, maybe somebody got your ID and then somebody is trying to access your funds under your name. Because why would you be getting money from Thailand if you told me that you live in the US? You can explain it as many times as you want. No, because I'm a digital nomad, I travel a lot. Because we are not that popular, the digital nomads. This is not so, the number of people being a nomad, it's not big enough for banks to create a system or a service that allow us to have the same access as if you are like a regular employee getting your payroll 30, 50, 60 years from the same company in the same place. So most of the nomads, they start looking for freedom geographically, and they start that they want to find financial freedom. And Bitcoin is a technology like credit cards. Credit cards are technologies, or bank transfers are technologies. It's a technology that allows to transfer value peer to peer. If I like what you're doing, I would like to buy one of your products and I like it, I can send you money directly from my pocket to your pocket. But we don't have to be in the same room. We can do it from the distance. And this can only be achieved with Bitcoin. And now somebody in the audience will say, well, no, wait, I use Venmo. And when I send my friend's Venmo, it arrives immediately in a fraction of a second. Well, Venmo is an app and it has a user interface that when you send money to another user of the app, the user interface changes and it tells you that the money has arrived. But this is not how money moves from one pocket to another. This is just a number that appears on your screen, but on the backlog, the money that you send needs to be sent from your bank to another bank. And at the end, normally it's at the end of the week or at the end of the month, banks settle themselves. And is it only in that moment when the money really reaches your bank. But Venmo and PayPal and Cash App and all these tools, what they are apps that move big chunks of money, and because they have like this big chunk of maybe a couple of million of users, then they can tell you that they moved the money immediately. But this is not how it works. And probably nobody has ever had issues unless they have been trying to move more money than normally, or when they traveled and they realized that the money they sent didn't really move, and they start getting all these notifications like, send me a picture of you holding your
Yep.
passport. Have you seen
Yep.
that? Like, you have to hold like this, so
Yeah.
demonstrate that it's you, and then you have to look at up, down, left, right. It's because it is only in that moment when you realize that the money didn't move. So that's why we built everything we built on Atlantis is built with this premise that we are tackling this group of people, the freedom seekers, that they started looking for freedom as a geographical freedom, but then they realized that they want more freedom. And once you meet this type of people, then you start creating like this social network of like-minded people, which is one of the things that you can find here on Setlantis when you go to any destination. And
Yeah.
like all these people, they are here. Some of them are Bitcoiners.
Yep. Okay. No, this is super helpful. And I know you shared that when we first spoke, and it was just cool to hear the behind the scenes and the mission and why did you guys do that, right? And yeah, I mean you're bringing up points from when you do travel, right? That what you just mentioned with Venmo, PayPal, just kind of that whole process, right? Getting those bank alerts, it happens. So I
And I'm
feel
using apps that are moving money fast.
yeah,
But normal American bank transfers, like all those wire transfers, if you send something on a Friday afternoon from the US to Thailand, for example, it will probably wait or need 1 week
yeah.
to reach your other. And even if you tell me, no, but I have an international bank account and I can move from one country to another, when you travel and you open the app from a different IP and a different GPS position, those apps, they get like red flags all the time. Like, oh, wait,
Mhm.
Ross has logged in from this country. Yesterday he was here and the day before. And if you're using VPNs because you want to protect your privacy, then it's even harder to convince the bank. No, no, I promise you I'm here, but I'm using a VPN. Why are you using a VPN? Are you a criminal or something?
Yeah.
It's so sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we just want to, we made a deal today in Hong Kong. I want to be able to cash in,
Hmm.
so that's why we discovered that most of the nomads are discovering this path, and we call it self-sovereignty. You can call them um, geo-arbitragers, flag theorists. There are all these types of groups that they started with the geographical
Hmm.
independence search, and then they ended up discovering like all these rabbit holes that go from money to independence to even health,
Yeah.
like all, and that's why we are trying to create this centralized place where everybody will be able to reach. And if you don't care about all those things, doesn't matter, because the more you use the app, the more we learn about you, and the more personalized experience we will give you when you go to one city or another. For example, like this stats and facts page that we have from every city. So it tells you the cost of living or the demographics. So cost of living is something that it's very personal.
This
Single
is
nomad,
this is
including rent.
great. This is awesome. Yeah, no,
So it's
this
like,
is now you guys are getting more into I think this is because when you go different places, I mean, you guys are hitting on, I'm just looking through this, right? The water, just everything.
can I drink the water from the tap?
Yeah, that's huge.
Sometimes.
Tap water, right? The power outlet. So if someone's right, if someone's expecting, hey, what's if I'm building out a budget, right? Okay, do I need to tip when I go
Do I
into?
need to tip?
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
you
That's, I
tip
mean,
in
that's
the
different
don't,
countries have different. different things, right? If you get their best ride sharing app, right? Once you get there, it's like they're gonna have like Uber and Lyft, or you have those, but like we were just in when we were in Thailand, Bali, you have Grab and Gojek, right? And like
Yes.
it's knowing those type of things is huge.
And again, all this information is freely available online.
Yeah.
You can find this on Google, on ChatGPT, on travel guides. The problem is that in every place they showcase it from a different angle, from a different perspective, and
Yeah.
they cannot compare. If you find one blog
Yeah.
in on the internet and then you ask ChatGPT from another city, you cannot compare the
Hmm.
results because they use different scales.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we're going to do, and again, we didn't invent anything. We are just centralizing all this. So to avoid you to have 3 or 4 more tabs open when you're going from one place to another.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. It's like, and sometimes I like to use this analogy, and we are nothing close to the analogy I'm trying to use, but so the audience understands. Steve Jobs didn't invent anything. The phone was invented. The internet was invented. The touchscreen was invented. He just repackaged it all together. Instead of you having to have 3, 4, 5 devices, the batteries were invented. So all this was invented,
Yeah.
but he put it all together and he invented the iPhone.
Yep.
So, and by no means comparing ourselves to Steve Jobs, but what I'm trying to say is that all this information is there. We're just putting it easier for you in under one roof.
Yeah. I mean, this dashboard, every dashboard you've shown has been awesome. And like whenever, yeah, my mind, you're answering every question, right? Even if I'm just going for a couple days. I mean, you're answering those
Yes,
questions. And then it's like if I were to live there, you're answering every single question. So no, this is great.
especially the power outlet for me.
Oh yeah.
Last 2 weeks ago, I was in Dublin, and because I'm so smart, wink, wink, I thought, yeah, Dublin, Europe, I will bring my electric razor.
Yeah.
Well, if I would have been just a little bit smart and read this webpage from Dublin, I would realize that the one I have in Spain doesn't work that because it's like the one in the UK.
That's fun.
So we need to use those things
Yeah.
because sometimes we believe that no, it's just Europe.
Yep.
No. So
Yeah, no, I mean those are things that go into planning a trip, and I think that's, people get overwhelmed sometimes when they don't know that stuff. I mean, I created a stress-free travel toolkit that I give away for free that people can grab on my
uh-huh.
website because and it's just like a checklist of like here's the things that you need to get before you travel. Because and here's a vacation document checklist if you're traveling internationally because like it can be overwhelming and a lot, but just breaking that down and from, mistakes I've made, a couple products
Yes.
I've tried, right? Like just giving people an easy one-stop shop for them to gather that and prepare. So no, Jordy, this has been great. I've learned a ton. I know my listeners and audience who got to watch. If you haven't watched, highly recommend watching on Spotify or YouTube because this is a great demo and he just showcases the value. And I can personally say for planning trips for 10 plus years for many people and, having all those different tabs, starting out with, obviously figuring out where I'm flying into, but once you kind of get that piece, it's like, okay, where do I want to stay? What's the cost, right? What do I need to, like you said, can I drink the tap water? Do I need to be using bottled water? What's the outlet? What's the, adapter that I need? Um, and then you got to figure out restaurants, TripAdvisor reviews, right? So if you can just consolidate that all into one, I mean, there's so much value there. So I really appreciate you coming on and showing that. And I look forward to sharing this episode and just hyping you guys up. But yeah, for anyone who wants to check them out more, you can find them on Setlantis IO, which if you're watching, you can see that on Jordy's Zoom. He was smart enough to
Somewhere
put
there.
Yep. And we'll make sure to share, all that their website in the show notes and then post it across our socials on Instagram and LinkedIn and everywhere else. So any other calls to action or anything else you want to share before we jump off?
If somebody doesn't want to play with the app on the website, you can also download it from the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store. So then you can have a personalized version of the app on your phone.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, appreciate you again coming on, Jordy. This has been great. For our listeners, make sure if you're new, and you aren't, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you don't miss any upcoming episodes each week. Make sure you share it with a family or friend. That way, that helps us grow and we can help more people travel smarter and more. And then also just if you think we deserve a 5-star review, that helps us grow the show again and helps us keep this thing going. So appreciate everyone tuning in and we'll see you next week. Thanks again, Jordy.
Thank you, Ross. See you soon.